All right, welcome back to another episode of Sequel Top Shelf. We are going to review another delicious whiskey today. If you have been with us on our series, we are slowly integrating in tips on how to drink, buy, and enjoy your whiskeys and bourbons. Today we have a new one here. This is Templeton's Rye. This is aged 4 years. This is a rye whiskey. Templeton is a company. Templeton Distillery is out of Iowa.
Interesting.
So an interesting place where normally, we're here in Nashville, Tennessee. Full disclosure, we drink a lot of Kentucky, a lot of Tennessee whiskeys and bourbons for good reason.
Iowa's got a lot of corn, though, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's the thing, right? Aren't they the Huskers or something like that?
Something like that, yeah.
If we are totally wrong, we apologize to anyone from Iowa.
Maybe it's Ohio. Maybe it's Ohio, I'm thinking.
I think those are the Buckeyes, right?
True, yeah.
Okay.
Grow a lot of corn.
Iowa, Templeton Distillery. Now, this is a 4-year rye. Typically, I try and buy 6-year and up. Not to be a snob, I can just now, with my palate, taste the difference.
Oh, wow. What about if it's like 4.5 years, 5 years?
Look,
is that then okay for you?
This is what I'm going to say. I took a stab in the dark here on a recommendation from a personal friend that said, you need to try this out. These guys have, I think, a 4, a 6, and like a 10-year rye. So these guys are like all in on rye.
Okay.
Makes good sense being out there in Iowa, I guess. But I took a stab on this, and full disclosure, before we pour and taste this, Matt, this is now in my top 5
Interesting.
whiskeys or bourbons
80,
of all
80
time.
proof.
Yep.
80 proof.
It's a mild one, and I'm telling you right now, you can see the damage done on that bottle. I might have had it for 2 days.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to tell you, I like it a little bit more than just to sip it. I don't want that to influence you here because this is probably the weakest that we've reviewed so far as the proof goes. I believe it's the first rye, if I'm not mistaken, right? I think this is the first rye whiskey we're reviewing.
For the show, yeah.
So,
and I only have, I think on my shelf, I only have 2 ryes. But I do have myself, kind of similar. I have a rye that I have on my list that is in a top 10.
Did you hear the snap to that bottle? That cork
I
had
did.
a nice snap to it. Wow. I like a snappy cork. I don't even know if that's a real thing. I get the boom, sound a lot, but never the snap. That thing kind of clapped in.
Is that because it's got the wood topper to it?
It's the wood topper, but you know what? It's not a true cork material of the cork.
Oh, okay. All right.
I'm not going to subtract any points here as we taste, review, and give a barrel score, but not a true cork material there, but the snap was interesting. It is definitely lock sealed.
Lock sealed.
That's our next tip and point. A lot of people believe that they can hold on to a bottle of whiskey and it will continue to age.
No.
That does not happen, guys. So if you have a bottle of whiskey in your collection that was 15-year aged when you bought it and you kept it for 10 years, it's still 15-year age. So sorry to break a lot of hearts out of there, but I think you should know that.
The only thing you do get is that for that year, if there was a specific blend for that year, that year then becomes harder to find the older it gets. But that's about it.
There is something here that, I have always heard people reviewing whiskeys and bourbons and talk about that leather smell. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? I've never, and I mean, I've drank hundreds and hundreds of different bourbons and whiskeys, never had that smell. This is the first one where I'm like, I kind of get it. This almost like,
I got like a tobacco pepper leather.
Something, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm a cigar guy as well, so I have a leather cigar case, okay? And I would say that they smell
like
very
the case
similar.
that they're in.
It smells like the case that they're in. I like blended cigars. I like a little sweeter cigar, so even that cigar smell kind of leaks into the case.
There's a little bit of a sourness to it, though.
You're smelling sour? Well, I mean, it is a rye.
That's all it is. It's very, very mild. It's just
you're going to get that grain smell to it, but
I love the leathery aspect to it, though. That's very nice.
I also am getting, for me, there's some kind of fruit here. I don't know if it's it's more of a plum smell that I'm getting.
That's the word that came to my mind right before you said that.
Really?
Yeah. Plum.
I'm getting a plum here, and the rye makes it smell a little alcohol-y, if you've got that traditional alcohol smell to it, but
maybe a plum or an apricot.
There's definitely a fruit factor here that gives it a little something that reminds me citrus,
Yeah. Fruity, yes. I don't know if I'm getting citrus for me. I think like a citrusy beer, like an IPA that's got that grapefruity. I'm not getting a citrusy.
I'm definitely getting a strong vanilla here, and I would say this is a pretty traditional vanilla that I'm getting, of like a vanilla bean almost. So like a very, vanilla bean ice cream is kind of what I'm getting here.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know if I'm getting vanilla for me, but
definitely smooth.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, I'm not going to influence you anymore. How about you take a sip?
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
And I'm just going to watch you. That was nice. Watching Matt was very nice just then.
Wow.
He's thinking. I hope that's a good wow.
That's very light. Very light.
Let me remind you, that's only 4-year aged. The moment I had this, I was like, have I been wrong my entire life? Like,
It doesn't take that long to become an expert.
What have I done to these 4-year and below bottles of rye and whiskey?
Mm-hmm.
These guys obviously producing a 4, 6, and a 10-year rye.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they have any other like product offerings. I think they're only in rye.
Just in the rye, yeah.
So these guys might
Catcher
really know their rye.
Templeton.
You know what I'm saying?
It's not Catcher in the Rye. It's Templeton in the
Templeton Rye. Yeah. I will say this being from Iowa, here in Nashville, Tennessee. Now, I will say, of course, we get some of the best whiskey and bourbon selections probably in the country, easily in most of our higher end retail locations. I don't think you're going to have a problem finding this unless you are quite south or quite north.
Okay.
So I do think you're going to be able to pick this up.
But what's the price point on this?
I think I paid $36 for this.
Okay.
4-year aged, and that's where I was like, okay, it's teetering. It's teetering on the price point where I'm like, south of this, we could be getting into some sketchiness.
I do like what I'm experiencing. I think for me, it would probably be something that I'm not necessarily going to reach for to buy. Because, and I think that's just probably because of the rye. It's a very unique flavor for me.
If you're not a rye drinker, this is not for you.
I don't typically gravitate towards rye.
Yeah.
I don't dislike it. If I were at your house for a party and you handed this to me, I would drink every drop of that.
Yeah.
That's fine. But would I buy it if I were looking for my own shelf? Maybe not.
That's interesting because my take on it is, even as someone who, I do love ryes, full disclosure, but it's balanced for me.
Okay.
I like other grains just as much. I don't have a preference or a priority when I'm shopping. But this has such a profile to it that I think it would interest even a whiskey drinking enthusiast.
Absolutely.
To double take and just be like, what did I just drink? There is a kind of a floralness to this sweet rye, thin, easy drinking, only 80 proof whiskey that I think, even the well-adjusted drinker whiskey enthusiast is going to just be like,
this is not a bad time at all. This like I said, if I were at a restaurant or socially or whatever and someone handed me this, I'd have a smile on my face.
I've had this on the rocks with my last 2 meals last night and the night before, and I'm telling you, man, this is delicious. I tried it
absolutely
the first
delicious.
day after a neat tasting. I tried it with a little bit of water, and then I tried another one with ginger ale, like a traditional cocktail, just highball status. Delicious.
Nice.
Delicious. I think even the ginger ale brought out some more of that vanilla flavor that I was getting.
Okay.
But it's something about the floralness that comes through that is interesting. So if you like to drink something and every sip not get numb to the taste, and every sip just be like, wow, what is that? Let me try and figure that out. I think this is the way to go. If you like ryes, you do have to like ryes because there's no avoiding the rye taste to it. It is certainly,
absolutely,
it owns what it is, and I think it
very
owns it
much
well.
so. Yeah. Well, now we've come to the aspect of scoring, and you're talking very highly about it, and you've already mentioned that this is. Did you say this was in your top 5?
It's in my top 5 whiskeys of all time.
Wow.
At this point.
That's a big claim.
Of all time, because it keeps me guessing every time. Wow. Every sip that I have, I am like, I'm just trying to pinpoint what am I? Is it plum? Is it something a little bit more floral? Is it is it citrus? What is it I'm tasting? I can't put my finger on it, but
okay.
Yeah, it's definitely top 5 of all time.
So top 5 of all time. What does that mean that it scores? Then does that mean it gets to 5 barrels?
It's going to get a 4.5.
Okay.
Here's why.
Why does it not?
The only reason it's getting a 4.5, it probably gets a 5 if I'm just doing a taste and I know nothing about Templeton. But the fact that I know that they have a 6 and a 10-year version of this.
Okay. And you haven't had those yet.
I haven't had those, and I just know from the rye guys of Iowa here, as delicious as this one is, I know that the 6-year and the 10-year are going to be better. I just know it's going to be better. So I can't give it the full 5.
Okay. All right.
Only because I'm sure either the 6 or the 10 is going to bring the full 5.
Okay, that's
what about
fair
you?
enough.
What do you think?
For me, I'm unfortunately, like I said before, not being the rye favorite lister. I'm gonna give it a solid 2.5. Just for my palate. It's not bad. I love the flavor.
This might be the most polarized.
I know
we're going to be.
So,
a 2.5?
2.5. Yeah, only because
you're dead to me.
I think of others. I think of others that. Okay, take the scoring out of the equation. If this were sitting among other bottles, there are many bottles that I would ignore and definitely go grab this, but.
We'll talk about that now. Is it have something to do with the visual presence as well?
Nope. No,
just because it's a rye. It's
just the palate.
For you?
It's just the palate. The bottle's great as far as design. It's something. I mean, when you go to the liquor shop and you have no information, you just want to try something new. What information do you have to be able to say that you're going to potentially like it or not, just by looking at the bottle and the design? You don't. You don't really have that much. You could spin the bottle around and say, yeah, it's a rye versus a bourbon.
Yeah.
And you could look at the mash blend, but that's not going to tell you what it tastes like on the tongue.
Yeah.
So
that's fair. I went in, I got it on a recommendation, again, a personal recommendation that I needed to try it out. That person either is my clone and has my palate out there, or again, they enjoy a rye. But 2.5, I'll let that slide because you're not a rye guy. But these guys are obviously rye guys.
They know what they're doing, and they definitely produce a very quality product. If you are a creamy bourbon guy, that's kind of where I'm falling. That's me. If you're more of the rye guy, then this definitely would fall a little bit higher on your score. But for me, creamy bourbons are where I'm typically living, which is why this doesn't get as high of a score as Brandon gave it. So,
and I'm going to kill Matt and hide his body.
Well, that's all right.
All right, guys, that is the review of Templeton's Rye, 4-year aged from Templeton Distillery out in Iowa. And we gave it our scores. We hope you will join us next time for another tasting.